Shop smart, shop S-Smart.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of New Book Who Dis.
I'm your host, Death Metal Hero, and with me is longtime friend of the channel and one of the first guests I ever had on this show, Mr. Joshua Plack. What's going on, brother? How you been?
I'm good, man. Really quick to derail the chat before it has even begun. In the intro, I heard the distinct sound of a China cymbal being played, and I recently learned that they don't call them China cymbals anymore. Did you know that?
No.
They're called trash cymbals now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that intro, the music from that is from a band called Blotted Science. It is it's a completely instrumental band, instrumental as I like to call it, because it's prog rock, prog metal, degent, whatever the hell you want to call it. But got the bass player from Cannibal Corpse in it.
Oh, nice.
And it's a fucking fantastic band. Highly recommend anybody that just loves listening to metal without any vocals. I love that band. They're fucking great.
Yeah, no, I love it.
I didn't realize that.
Animals as leaders.
Oh yeah, that's another one. Yes, fucking love Animals as leaders. That dude is fucking nuts on the guitar.
Yeah, Animals as leaders, or as I also call them, a black guy, a white guy, and a Mexican guy walk into a recording studio
and create fucking badass metal.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
Fucking that. You know what that reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of that that NoFX album that they did. Two Hebes
and a Bean.
Yeah, Two Hebes and a Bean. Yeah. pretty good album. I think The Decline is probably one of my favorites, although that's just one giant track. And then Punk and Drublick, I think, is probably their best one.
I first heard them on a comp album called Fat Music for Fat People.
Yep.
one of my favorite comps of all time.
Fuck yeah, man! Gotta love old school punk. I miss real punk music. Not a lot of it being made anymore. That's why I mostly just listen to metal.
If it doesn't kind of sound like polka, it's not real punk,
right? Well, and you gotta have like a slightly degraded sound or recording quality as well.
Yeah.
It's gotta sound kind of like shit, because that was the whole point.
The recording is so bad that if somebody digitally remastered it, it would sound worse.
Yes. Well, I mean, that's also kind of the same thing with black metal. Black metal was like a rebelling against like the high production values of death metal. They're like, fuck this, we're gonna sound like shit, and we're gonna screech in your ear. And we're also gonna be mad at God all the time and talk about burning down churches.
And then you have like people like Seth Putnam coming along, and like it's so bad that if you were to just list the name of their songs and their band title, you'd get pulled off YouTube instantly.
Yeah. That's pretty accurate. I mean, Dying Fetus, like that name alone is commercial suicide, pretty much.
Oh yeah.
But one of the things about Gore Grind, they have to actually give their song titles like these off the wall names, so you actually know what the song's about, because you can't understand a damn thing they're saying.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
They theoretically have lyrics, but damned if anybody can tell. Nobody can understand what the fuck they're saying. So
I think live music peaked when, and again, I can't say the name of the band, but when Seth Putnam OD'd on Hayron and was in a coma. And then woke up and played their show the next day. And the first song they played was a song that they had written before this happened, called "Ha Ha, You're in a Coma."
Wow,
it doesn't get any better than that.
That's meta right there.
Yeah,
I mean that almost lends a lot of credence to the fact that we or lends credence to the theory that we live in a
collapsing
simulation.
timeline.
Yeah,
Oh.
well, yeah, simulation, collapsing timeline. You know, same, but different, but still same. Holy shit, the conversation is already off the wall. Thank you so much for being here, everybody. Go ahead and say hi to the chat real quick before we dive into more. Michael Rushbrook, what's going on? Luke, Joshua, and chat, what's going on? Michael, good to see you, brother. It was great kicking it with you at Heroes Con. There's my beautiful, lovely lady, Skull Gorgeous.
We need to put a kibosh on the Heroes Con talk because I'm jealous. And I want
well, then, you know, make it there next year, man.
People, I know. No, because if I do that next year, it's going to be a different one. It's going to be like, oh, we're not doing Heroes Con. We're doing this other one. And it'll be high school all over again.
Well, I know that I will be there, and I know that Feline will be there because she's she's my partner in crime, and we'll be setting up our own booth there. But from what I could tell, everybody that was there this year plans on being there next year. She says she's cooking dinner, but she'll be in and out. All right, well, have fun cooking dinner. I know that that's going to make me jealous because she always makes really good food. What's up, Screaming Raven? Good to see you, sir. Welcome. And we got a Henry Bemis in the chat, dropping the link. What's going on, Bemis? Good to see you, sir. Thank you for being here. Best
avatar on YouTube.
Right? That's the dude from the Twilight Zone episode that the last dude, and he's in the library and then drops his glasses or something like that.
Yeah, and okay, now that I've broached the subject, I'm going to say something that might end up being, I might out myself and embarrass myself, but I think it's the same actor who played Mickey in the Rocky movies. And what's his name? His last name is Meredith. Burgess Meredith. Great actor.
Help us out, Bemis. Is that Burgess Meredith? Yep. And that's him. So yeah, that is him. I've seen
I can keep my Philadelphia cred. That's wonderful.
I mean, Burgess Meredith was also, the Penguin on the Batman. Yep.
Well, absolute legend.
He was also Grandpa in Grumpy Old Men, and Grumpier Old Men.
Oh, yeah.
Those movies with Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. Those movies are fucking hilarious, dude. Yeah. Seriously, if you're looking for laugh riot, those movies, hearing Burgess Meredith say to Jack Lemmon, well, you can wish in one hand and shit in the other and see which one gets filled up first, will always be one of the funniest damn things I've ever heard. Yeah. Absolutely, go check out those movies. They're fantastic. He was also Dirty Old Man and Grumpy Old Man. That's right. He was the Penguin. Yes, indeed. Hey, we got a Michael Bancroft in the chat. What's up, Bancroft? Good to see you, sir. He says, no disco lights. Disappointed.
That was a Bancroft special. I can't do that everywhere. I can't. My ring light can't just be a floozy all over town.
Right. Yeah, see, I don't even have anything even remotely like disco lights. Sorry, buddy. Yeah, this is definitely not the disco channel here. But we'll try to entertain you with fun conversations. He was in another of the greatest Twilight Zone episodes of all time, The Obsolete Man. I don't know if I've seen that one or not. I don't recognize the name. Hey, what's up, Jim Cox? Death Before Disco. That's right. Unless it's Evil Disco, which is Static X. Static X, one of my favorite bands of all time. It's the only disco I'm down with. Evil Disco.
Wasn't that band kind of cursed?
Static X?
Yeah. Didn't bad things happen to everybody?
No, not them. I mean, Wayne Static died. I guess in 2014. But other than that, they had a pretty solid career for a long time. They've got a new frontman that has it's Edsel Dope from Dope, the band. He's donning like a costume to kind of look like a robotic reincarnation of Wayne Static, so that they could go on tour and celebrate the first two albums 25th anniversaries. Yeah, Wisconsin Death Trip and Machine. And they actually found a whole bunch of old recordings that were never finished of Wayne, and so they had a bunch of people from the metal community come in and help finish the albums and the songs. And they did Project Regeneration Volume 1 and 2. They were both really, really fucking solid albums. In fact, they did Static X did a cover of Nine Inch Nails' "Terrible Lie" that I fucking love. It is a great cover. Let's see. I tried to type the full title of that NoFX record, and YouTube censored it. Wow. Yeah, that doesn't surprise. That doesn't surprise at all. That doesn't surprise. YouTube is getting persnickety about all kinds of shit. I actually went in and turned off that top fans nonsense because apparently it brings the evil eye of Sauron upon your channel every time it's on. So don't need none of that AI nonsense up in here because we got comics to talk about. You've been reading anything good recently, man? Anything that you've been digging?
Oh man. I have been reading, I'm reading Russian poetry, which doesn't connect to anything going on and nobody's going to care about in the chat. But
okay.
I'm studying some of the older forms of Russian poetry in order to tell a Russian story, basically. So they had
that's research.
Yeah, no, basically. Yeah, they had a form called, because back in the day, that's how stories made their way from town to town, pre-written word. People would memorize, poems basically and go around and, like bards and tell each other the stories. Right. And so every culture has something along those lines. And for Russia, it was called the Bylina, I think. And so, so none of it was written down. So you have to find like whoever archived the most of it. And it was different depending on the part of Russia you were in. But other than that, I've been watching Pyro, the Agatha Christie movies.
Oh, Hercule Poirot.
Yeah. Death on the Nile and all that, Just kind of boning up for, Noirlem 3.
I actually watched those with Feline one of the last times I was up visiting. We just sat down one day and watched all three of those movies all together. Yeah, they're good flicks. I liked the first one on the train. And then the one on the, I mean, they're all pretty solid flicks.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy the third one as much. The one where they're in Venice. Yeah, Haunting in Venice. It didn't seem like the story held up as well as the other two. But yeah, solid flicks altogether. I enjoyed them, but I think I liked the first one the best, and then second and third. But,
I just like kind of diving into all different kinds of mysteries to see how other mystery writers are, employing the mechanics of telling a mystery story.
Right.
And it's fascinating. First off, the breadth of the genre. Secondly, I mean, every story is a mystery if you think about it, because it's you as the writer know more than the reader, and you're slowly doling out the information. So everything's a mystery if you think about it.
Yeah. Feline loved those movies, and Agatha Christie is one of the best. I mean, she's regarded as one of the best mystery writers ever, and Poirot was her pinnacle character. That's the character that whenever anybody thinks about Agatha Christie, it is usually in tandem with Hercule Poirot. As a matter of fact, my grandmother watches the Poirot TV series that BBC did a few years back. They did a lot of that show. So yeah, it's pretty good stuff. I mean, I love mysteries. They're fun. Seeing how the story it kind of unfolds and unwinds, and seeing if the writer actually did lay the groundwork for things.
Like how many things can you go back and revisit?
Yes. Can you see the little breadcrumbs being left for you? And does it all make sense? Did the writer actually plan this out, or, did it just, all of a sudden happen this way? Because, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, wrote Sherlock Holmes, obviously. And, some of those stories, you can see the little breadcrumbs. Other stories, it's like, okay, he didn't really plan this out as well as he could have. I mean, they're still enjoyable stories, don't get me wrong, but being able to pick up on the signs, and when the big reveal happens at the end, being able to go back and think about the things that you read earlier and being like, oh, I remember that. That makes sense. That's what I love about a good mystery story. Did you ever read?
Yeah. So
go ahead.
I was going to say a good example, or I guess a bad example, that would be Sherlock, the BBC series by Stephen Moffat and Mark Gatiss.
Yeah.
When Moffat was writing Doctor Who, the one thing he was really, really bad at was long form story structure. So a lot of his Sherlock involves Sherlock divulging information that the audience had no access to, which to me is a bad mystery. You know what I mean? If Sherlock is just pulling something out of his ass and it was never shown to the audience,
right?
That for me is just it's like the telltale sign of a bad mystery.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's present in some of the original source material as well. So that might be where he was pulling some of that from. Yeah, there were times that Doyle did seed the little breadcrumbs, and there are other times he just kind of Sherlock pulled something out of his ass that we had no idea about. I don't know. I suppose that's the benefit of doing a second draft. You write it out first, you get your story out there, and then you let it sit, and then you come back, and then you it's like foreshadowing. You add little bits of foreshadowing in to make this reveal have more impact, so the audience feels it more. It adds to the experience. It's like a satisfying meal. You have the little bits that lead up to the main course. And if all those little bits and pieces, those little appetizers, as it were, they build up to that delicious end result, and you feel satisfied at the end.
And for me, that's kind of built into my process already, because when I go to make a comic, I have the entire process of writing out a story, writing out a script, having it edited. But then once I start working with the artist, it's all the way back to square one, because now that artist is going to bring things to the table that is going to make some of the writing redundant. And so it's a process of going through it again, and what can be trimmed up, what can be cleaned up, what can be added to make it better. And in the case of the mystery, it's just kind of a good fit.
Absolutely. Feline says the XP thing is still on. Yeah. You can only turn off the leaderboard for yourself, which is what I did. I thought it might have an effect on my streams, but apparently not. So yeah, everybody's got to go in and turn it off for themselves. It's interesting. Bancroft has been spared the XP thing. Well, it's just another thing to farm engagement is really what it is. But, getting back to the mysteries, specifically Noirlem, give us the elevator pitch for Noirlem while I bring up this website that you've got your newest book listed on. Where did Noirlem come from as well?
So Noirlem is a detective noir murder mystery series set in 1920s Harlem, New York. This is the second issue. So the first issue was very much about telling a mystery that kind of, it revolves itself in the end, but it also sets up a kind of character arc. And this is the second installment. I like to make my mysteries have some kind of an interesting bend to it. So in this issue, the main character Coleman is hired by a guy named Eli Weiss to investigate a murder at one of his kind of lavish 1920s jazz party. The twist, as it were, is that Eli Weiss is more crooked than a $3 bill. So how do you investigate a murder when the most suspicious person involved is your client? And that's kind of the main bend of the story. He's just this very connected guy. He's got, eyes and ears everywhere. So it becomes a layer to it is how do you investigate something while also investigating the person that you're investigating for, and they can see and hear everything that you're doing.
Right. Well, that's it would definitely make an investigation very difficult, especially if you don't want to end up on the wrong side of that person that is very well connected. But I mean, that is definitely a mystery trope, hell, a noir trope, as it were, to have the big, powerful, guy that then hires the private detective. I mean, you even see this in
Fletch.
Fletch, yeah.
Fletch.
I was thinking, did you ever watch that show, Altered Carbon? That's what it is. I read the book series. The first book is so fucking good. The Takashi Kovacs trilogy, but it's in its presentation, it's obviously very cyberpunk because it's a cyberpunk story, but it's also got those threads of noir woven through it. It is very much a noir, investigation mystery as well.
Just make sure you don't say neo-noir, or somewhere all this will have an aneurysm.
No, we don't need to give all this an aneurysm. I wouldn't say that it is anything like that. It is definitely a cyberpunk story, and well-written cyberpunk, I feel, has a lot of threads of noir woven through it. It's kind of in the basic fabric of its construction. The way it's presented. I mean, look at Blade Runner. Blade Runner is absolutely a noir film. The way it's shot, the way it's presented, the way it's written, and it's in its DNA. And you go back to William Gibson's Neuromancer and Philip K. Dick. What is it? We Can Remember For You Wholesale. Now that one is a little less noir. It's very pulpy in its presentation. But yeah, I feel like noir is kind of in the DNA of cyberpunk. But yeah, if you've never read Altered Carbon or watched the first season of the TV series, highly recommend. It's good shit. Yeah. So this cover art is beautiful. Who did the cover art for you?
Kanan White.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Kanan's so damn good.
Yeah. Colors by Jesse Hee.
Excellent, man. And so this is issue 2 of Noirlem, you said?
Yep.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's kind of a cozy IP that I can pretty much never really resolve. I can always, concoct a new mystery to tell.
Right.
Like SVU.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's a little write-up for Noirlem, and you can get this on Barnes and Noble. You said backstage this is a pre-order for Noirlem.
Yeah, so the book unofficially comes out July 21st, but Barnes & Noble is not honoring that at all because I've already had somebody send me a picture of their book. They got it in a couple of days. So,
well, if you want the book now, go ahead and hit that pre-order, and you'll get it within a couple of days, apparently.
Yeah. So, 90 pages. It's
my next question.
Full start to finish mystery. If you are looking for either a signed version or a bundle of both of them together, I'm going to have basically a storefront on Fund My Comic. So anybody who wants to go down that route can. If you're just looking to get issue 2, read the new mystery. I'm trying to drive as many people as I can to Barnes & Noble because they're the largest retailer in America. So any orders I get through there help me out a great deal.
Now, once this is released, is this going to only be online, or is this going to show up in the brick and mortar stores as well?
I do not know. The publisher, I don't know how all the machinations of them work, but these books turn up in the weirdest places. So,
all right.
I Googled it one day and I found that it was for the first book was being sold at the Harvard bookstore. Like University of Harvard.
Fantastic. Awesome.
So I immediately ordered a copy and I haven't opened it. I just have a copy of my book coming from Harvard.
That's awesome, man. I mean, that's a hell of a thing to say. Yeah, my book's sold at the Harvard Library, the Harvard bookstore. That's great.
Yeah,
man.
But if you're international, it'll be on your whatever country's Amazon. So if you don't want to pay out the ass for shipping, you can do that as well.
See, there you go. And what I love about this is that you're using all the avenues available to you. It's not you don't just have to do one avenue and hope for the best. I feel like this is the best way for indie creators to get their work out there. if you need to crowdfund it to get it rolling, fine. But once you have the book in hand and you've taken care of the backers that already backed your book, then put it out there for everybody to get a hold of, on Amazon, on Barnes and Noble, wherever else, Abe Books. The way we can get the best way to get our stuff out there to everybody, to get comics, because people love to read comics, they still do, in spite of Marvel and DC not really caring about comic shops and all the fun stuff with Diamond that's been going on. People still like to read comics, and if the cover catches their eye and the write-up catches their eye, then they're going to pick it up. So why not have the stuff out there and as wide as wide a net as possible and on as many places as possible to get it out there to people? I think it's a great idea. What's up, Phil? Good to see you, man. Welcome.
And I would say if you're a creator like me and you like you said, you have your book in hand, the process it's grueling, but at the same time, reach out to anybody who's printing comics. You know what I mean? Like either they're taking submissions or they're not. And if they are,
right,
the process of trying to get your book into, getting it published is going to make you better at that process and get you better at like talking to other people outside of your circle about your book. You know what I mean? And, you're going to get rejected. It's going to happen a lot, but if you keep at it, you get better at it and you'll hopefully see, the fruits of that labor.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I mean, unless you're a complete and utter genius like Narwhal and you just immediately have, one of the best in the biz dying to work with you. But we're not all Narwhal.
No, we're not, and that's okay. But the cool thing about Narwhal's success is that, the big boys are watching. So just keep doing your thing. Narwhal has just kept doing his thing consistently over time and, making his books his way, making his art his way. And look, it's paid off for him in spades. To me, that is fucking encouraging as hell. I love seeing it. Somebody from our little sector of the internet, our little indie sphere, making it big and working with one of the biggest names in comics. That's fucking badass, man.
And, completely inventing like a brand new art style that almost nobody has seen before. And it's very dynamic and expressive and, a joy, just a joy to look at. You know what I mean?
Well,
like
he's doing it for him, man. He's making his art his way. And I feel like that's encouraging for the rest of us to, not worry about what's popular or how everybody else is drawing and just be true and authentic to what you're creating. I think the world is craving authenticity, and the more authentic we can be with what we create, the better off we're going to be.
Absolutely.
See, and this is exactly true.
Yeah.
Narwhal would still be making comics if only 10 people read them. Exactly. That's the kind of authenticity I'm talking about. Do your thing, and be true to yourself, be true to what you want to do with your art, your story, whatever. And, do what you love and the money will follow. I fully believe that. And that's, ask me no questions, I'll tell you no lies. Exactly. Here, speaking of doing their own thing and doing it, for themselves. I mean, Bancroft. Look at all the amazing stuff that he's doing. The badassery that is the Lucent. Who he's currently got a brand new campaign out. You guys should go check that out. Doing it on his own website, another avenue, not just relying on other platforms, but doing it on his own website as well. So, yeah, there's. This is what I mean when I say that there is an indie renaissance upon us. This is just the beginning, and I really do feel like we're going to see more of this stuff building because people are craving authenticity.
Yeah, and I think that part of that process is a little bit painful. You know what I mean? Like,
sure,
people are going to fail, but we're kind of separating the wheat from the chaff. And the people who are genuinely serious about making serious art are going to be the ones that stick around, even if there's only 10 people reading their book. You know what I mean? But that kind of like almost cruel process is going to make things better in the long term. It's not going to be a place where somebody can come in with like a couple pages of preview art, you know, raise 20 grand and never put out a book. You
Right.
know, it's only going to be for the people that are really, really dedicated to that process of making art.
Yes. You know, and that's, I mean, in my opinion, that's the way it should be. You know,
Mm.
you got to. I remember watching an interview with Mark Silvestri, and he was saying, you know, you better love this, because some days, you know, some days it's going to flow great, and you're gonna love everything you do, and you're going to be hitting on all cylinders, and some days it's just going to be terrible. You know, you
Yeah.
won't be able to draw a hand, you won't be able to draw a face. You'll hate everything you put down on paper, and that goes for writing as well. You know,
Mhm.
there are good days and there are bad, but you know, you gotta be consistent. You gotta keep pushing at it. You know, you have to love doing this, otherwise you're not going to get the return on it. You know, you gotta sow that love into what you're doing, and then you'll reap it back. I fully believe that.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
tell
like,
me, go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say, like, that definitely describes me, because, like, to give an example,
Mm-hmm.
I try to write something every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And my normal weekend is, you know, I get up for 7:30 a.m. every day for work,
Mm-hmm.
or Monday through Friday. Weekend, I give myself an extra half hour because I need to be up at 8, because I need to write something. You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, and you can't do that if you don't love it.
This is true. I try to draw something every day, even if it's just, you know, some warm-up sketches. I traditionally have not done warm-up sketches, but I've been trying to ever since having a conversation with Fraga. You know, I've been trying to do more warm-up sketches. You know, trying to draw something every day, and if I can finish something, you know, even better. You know, on the 4th of July, I actually worked on this Captain America piece. You know, and I don't know if. But yeah, I didn't quite finish it. I'm pretty happy with where the pencils are, and I'll probably be inking this, you know, probably on Topicless tomorrow night. But just the fact that I worked on something, I drew something, you know, you gotta keep polishing those skills. You got to keep sharpening that axe. You know, you
Yeah.
can't let it get dull.
Yeah, I've had people. I have actually had somebody ask me this the other day about that process, and what I always try to tell people is, I'm not a somebody, and I'm not, you know, a teacher, but what I would like, my personal philosophy is that if you go to create something and you think of it like you're trying to create the best thing you ever made, you're going to psych yourself out, basically.
Yes. Yep.
But if you treat it as if the best thing you've ever made is in the future, and what you do today is working toward that future,
Yep.
you can always create without fear or without insecurity or any of the things that might prevent you from picking up a pen and doing something that day.
Letting things get too precious, you know, you're too precious about it, too worried about the outcome, instead of just letting it flow and creating.
Yeah.
I 100% agree, you know, and that, you know, that goes for all creative avenues. You know, if you're too worried about what you're doing, instead of just diving in and letting that flow consume you and just going with that flow, you know, you then you know, like you said, psych yourself out. So what was the process getting onto Barnes and Noble here? Is that the publisher, or did you have to like do the legwork to contact Barnes and Noble and get this on the page?
That was the publisher, and like I alluded to before, it's that
Yeah.
process of just like beating my head into a wall,
Right.
Pitching this idea for a book to every publisher or publicist that would listen to me,
Right.
and one of them said yes. And so,
heck yeah,
it's a small victory, but I'm now going to do that again for, you know, I got better at the process, so I'm going to do the same thing again and hopefully get a few more bites at the apple for my next property. And that way I can start the process of maybe like shopping it around a little bit. And so, you know, hopefully I'll keep getting better at that. And yeah, we'll see where we can go.
Again, people are hungry for good stories, man. With all of the recycled stories that are currently out, you know, something new, something fresh, something exciting. People are always looking for it. Speaking of new and exciting and possibly surreal, we've got a second book to talk about here. Eudaimonia, number 3. So I'm going to switch over to the Indiegogo campaign. And why don't you give us the elevator pitch for Eudaimonia?
Well, it's impossible, but here we go. It's World War One. It's World War One. There's a bunch of horrendous violence on the fields of Europe, and a single American soldier who is 16 years old has a kind of traumatic, surreal experience involving a woman playing a magical song on her cello.
Ooh,
and then
the sound of a cello.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the motifs of the book is the idea that something can simultaneously be beautiful and haunting at the same time.
Yes.
Which that's pretty much what the cello is to me. And so the first book is basically how that moment and that song changed his entire life. And basically, like, yeah, it kind of gave him his meaning, his eudaimonia. The second book is about the woman who plays the cello and another character from the first book. And it kind of culminates with showing how these three stories interlock with each other. And so it's an interlocking narrative. And now this final book, book 3, is really taking the concept of eudaimonia and funneling it into a bunch of short stories and poems to create an anthology. And you can partially blame Aldous for this because he had me read so many anthologies that I was like, man, anthologies are awesome.
They can be when done well. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it's just a collection of right now 13 short stories.
Wow.
Ranging from 2 to 6 pages about different people and different times looking for their eudaimonia. And it could be anything from the story on the preview story on the page, which is just about a regular guy, you know, an old man looking for his eudaimonia or being shown his eudaimonia, to a stripper and her chicken tenders in New Orleans.
Nice. Eudaimonia. Okay, I completely mispronounced that all the times that I was saying it earlier. So eudaimonia, and as you can see, he's got a convenient pronunciation down here. And for those wondering what the hell that word means, it's from Greek philosophy, that which makes us happy if we knew its existence, but quite independently of whether we do know about it. So there you go. That's what it means. Reading that, it kind of reminds me a little bit of the Welsh Hyreleth, but that's more of a deep longing for something, especially one's home. And there's another term that I can't think of, but it's like a nostalgia or a deep longing for a place that you've never been to and that may never have existed. So yeah, that kind of eudaimonia kind of reminds me of both of those terms. Language is fucking cool, man. You know, especially when used appropriately. You know, it's almost like it was used to describe the world around us.
Sorry,
I was thinking of Eudaimonia by the Misfits. Yes, that's totally where I was at, Bemis. Thank you.
Sorry, what you said was prophetic. I didn't want to spoil it with empty words.
Right. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at your trailer here. Awesome. dig it. Very, very ominous.
Mm.
And you got like a killer's row of artists working on this thing, man. That's great.
Yeah, it was a funny story when the artist I worked with on the first two books, he and I had a bit of a falling out afterward. And so when I started working on it, I'd spent so much time hanging around with, if I'm being honest, like Bancroft's Art Share, and just on the scene,
Yep.
meeting people, hanging out with people, reading Roach Balls, reading Jupiter.
Yep.
I haven't gotten my books from Jose yet, but I will. But just seeing all these artists and wanting to work with them. So I started, putting these stories together and reaching out to people and, working with people. And then since then, Emmy and I kind of patched things up and reconnected. So he came back on board for a couple of stories, and I thought he just killed it.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear that. It's always good to hear when people patch things up and figure things out.
I know it's egotistical, but I genuinely think the best work he's ever done has been through me. You know what I mean? Like, we just kind of have that, it just clicks, it just works.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, when a creative team, they work together a lot. They, when it first starts out, there's some miscommunications here and there. They get things worked out, but as they work together more, there's more of a like a shorthand in the conversation. And the creative team kind of melds together and meshes, and you kind of get that rapport going, and I think that's great. That does produce the best work when you have that rapport going. Some creative teams get it immediately. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time to to work through it.
Yeah, like the first piece he ever did for me, I was trying out a couple different artists, and I basically gave him the rundown that I gave to everybody, and it was basically like, I want to do the cover for the first book, and I want you to just imagine a woman on the middle of a battlefield in World War I, and she's playing the cello, and the sublime is coming out of her cello, and it's every color you could possibly imagine. And that's all the direction I gave him, and that cover is what he delivered.
That's
that
awesome.
was it.
And that's what that piece that Skunk Artworks was doing, right? Skunk did a black and white piece, and just that beautiful rainbow color coming out of the cello. Very striking, because the entire background, everything else is black and white, but the music is in color. And that's beautiful metaphor for what music can do for the soul. Music.
Well, I mean, I know you would understand.
Oh yeah, I mean, obviously, I love music. I mean, yes, death metal is my favorite. That's my preferred genre. But I mean, I grew up listening to classic rock. I grew up listening to classical music. Listening to Bach and Beethoven with my grandfather. One of my favorite death metal bands, as a matter of fact, is a band called Flesh God Apocalypse that incorporates Italian opera with death metal. And they're fucking brilliant. I'm actually getting ready to do an album review of their most recent album, Opera, for Edge Punk magazine, the magazine that I work for. I do album reviews or music reviews for the magazine.
It's funny, on my channel, I basically treat my YouTube channel as being a repository for whatever dumb crap I think of that week. And so I continually jump from like different topics. So like I'll do, food or video games or movies, or I did a video a couple of weeks ago on politics. I never do politics.
Dr. Masks.
But if I do any videos about music or, even if it's just telling stories from when I managed a record store, freaking nobody watches it. No videos perform worse than talking about music, I've found.
You just gotta get it out there to the right people. I don't know. Music is one of those things that's very subjective. I mean, but then again, so is art.
See, that's what I think, is that I think that like I watch a couple music YouTube like review channels, and I don't understand it, because music is so personal that how can anybody's opinion even matter? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like a movie review where it's like you sitting there, everybody has the same experience. You sit down and you watch a movie and you're paying attention to the movie, but like music is something that happens to your life while other things are happening. So I can't understand that music criticism can even be a thing that anybody would care about. But that could just be me.
Yeah, I mean, the people do. The way I look at album reviews is, thankfully I get to choose what I review, and so I get to pick things that I love. And my album reviews are about, hey, this is awesome. This is why I think it's awesome, and why I think you should check it out. That's basically like my perspective when I'm doing an album review. Like I'm going to try to encourage.
Maybe I'm
you
just
to check this
watching
out.
negative reviews. You know what I mean? Like,
Well, I mean, there's a lot of negative out there, and I do believe in constructive criticism. I think that we get better when we can take constructive criticism and take that feedback and use it to sharpen the axe, as it were.
right.
But when criticism becomes just, I'm going to be pissy and tear somebody down, that's when I feel like that it becomes useless, because maybe not even useless, because sometimes your harshest critics can give you things that maybe you wouldn't get otherwise, but you've got to be able to sift it out of the negativity. But the negativity for negativity's sake, I mean, it's bullshit.
Like the thing that I thought was really interesting when I ran a record store is I would hear, like, because everybody gets a turn to play whatever they want. You know what I mean? And it's mostly like I was in my 20s, and it was a lot of people that were younger than me, a lot of like late teens.
Right.
And so they would be playing things like Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy and, stuff that, like, I feel like the stereotypical version of a metalhead would make fun of. But because I kind of saw it through their eyes,
sure,
I grew to appreciate it. You know what I mean? After a while, I'm bumping Panic at the Disco because I was able to experience it kind of vicariously through the people that it was really, really important to, and it kind of just changed the way I felt about it.
No, I can totally see that. Those bands really don't do anything for me, but I mean, I'm not going to pull the whole metal elitist thing, and I may chuckle at you for listening to that stuff, but I mean, some of the shit that I listen to, that I mean, go ahead, chuckle at me. I don't give a shit. I like what I like. You like what you like. That's the beauty of music. Cookie Monster vocals, man. I fucking love that shit. You kidding me? You see, the way I look at vocals in death metal is that it's not necessarily vocals; it's just an angry wind instrument. So it's another type of sound that's being added to it. It's not necessarily supposed to be vocals. What I'm paying attention to is like the timing of the drums and the syncopated rhythms of the guitar and how all that comes together to create this cacophony of fucking badassery.
Yeah,
but yes, vocals are just
really,
an angry wind instrument.
I was always really impressed by screaming vocals that were still legible. You know what I mean? So like, and not all of them are the same. So like, I could understand Randy Blythe like he was talking to me. I wasn't a huge Lamb of God fan, but I was always impressed by his ability to articulate.
Randy's got one of the most unique voices in metal. Just because you can clearly hear what he's saying, but it still sounds fucking badass.
Whereas like Between the Buried Me is like one of my favorite bands ever. I never understood a word he was saying.
Yeah. Cannibal Corpse, prime example. Corpse Grinder. I mean, hell, even going back to Chris Barnes, you couldn't really understand what the fuck he was saying. And Corpse Grinder's no different, but I mean, it's just that particular style. Chuck from Death, Chuck Schuldiner. You can kind of understand what he's saying. It's a lot clearer than some of the more Cookie Monster-esque vocals. But it's all subjective as far as music goes anyway.
I was a big fan of I'm trying to think. That kind of weird resurgence of Christian metal, but really good Christian metalcore. So like August Burns Red is from my hometown.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I've heard them.
Man,
you're talking about like Zao or
like
what was it?
It was just this weird resurgence where all of a sudden Christian metal got really technical.
There's another one called Demon Hunter that I thought was pretty good.
Demon Hunter. Texas in July.
No, I've never heard of them.
I was actually surprised. There were a lot. I think I'm trying to remember. Like, I think Bring Me the Horizon or one of those is actually a Christian band. I had no idea.
No, I didn't either. Mortification, says Dr. Mass. Yeah. Yeah. Not I've heard the name. I have not actually heard them. I do like old school Mortician though. But see, that's the thing about metal. It's a genre, and you can tell any kind of story with it. Kind of like comics, you can tell any kind of story with comics. It's just a medium for storytelling. I feel that same way about music. Music is a storytelling medium. And some stories are happy-go-lucky and uplifting. Some stories are sad and dour, and they really pull on the heartstrings. Kind of like what's going on in Eudaimonia, or damn it, I fucked it up again.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a hard sell, because I think what makes it
Okay,
challenging to talk about it is that it sounds like I'm trying to sell people a self-help book. You know what I mean? 'Cause it's just like, and I'm really, 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 really not. I'm just kind of introducing the concept of eudaimonia and asking people to maybe think about it a little bit. And so I have I basically put an entire preview story up here, because it's like, if you read this and it grabs you, this might be for you. But plenty of people read it and they're like, I don't get it. And I'm like, that's fine. That's totally fine. It might not be for you. But making things that are kind of challenging is kind of what I enjoy doing.
Right.
Things that kind of ride the line between just being like kind of cookie cutter and, maybe something that might not grab people.
Well, I mean, there's room for all of it.
Right.
There's just like popcorn flicks. Sometimes a popcorn flick is fun. Other times you want to watch something that's really cerebral, something that's gonna tickle the back of your brain and make you think.
Well, I guess the fine line of that would be making something like Requiem for a Dream, where you watch it and you never want to watch it ever again. You know what I mean? It has that kind of effect where it just kind of, it kicks you out of the movie and it's like, I don't want to watch that.
Yeah, that is a very heavy example.
Yeah.
I feel like going along the lines of never want to watch it again. I feel like Deliverance is another one that you watch once and you never have to watch it again. You know,
American History X.
Yes, yeah, that's another flick I've only watched once. Really well done movie, but fuck, that is a heavy film. What Dreams May Come, another really heavy film.
Oh, hang on, we gotta have a sidebar conversation.
Yeah,
I dated a girl, and on our first date, I took her to see What Dreams May Come.
Oh, damn!
And I didn't know, what I mean? And it gets to the scene toward the end of the movie where his son is telling him, she's in hell because she, unalived herself in Minecraft.
Right.
And this girl just starts bawling her eyes out, because what I didn't know is that her dad unalived himself in Minecraft.
Oh.
And I literally took her to a movie that is screaming at her, your dad is in hell. Thanks a lot.
Wow. Well, I mean, it's, again, how could you know?
I know.
So did you get a second date after that, or?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay,
it's
so it worked out okay.
Yeah, it worked fine.
Dr. Mass, yeah, that's a yeesh.
So anyway, moving on to lighter things. The story I have up here it's called The Last Summer, and it is basically a story about a guy's entire life, but it's narrated by the summer. And so the summer is kind of talking to him about how their relationship has changed over time, about how like when you're a kid, the summer is this thing that you can't wait for, you're looking forward to. Then you get a little bit older and maybe it becomes more of like a chore or responsibility. You got to take the kids to the beach, you got to do this and that. But the summer is telling him all this because the summer is letting him know that this is the last time he's going to see him. So he'd better get up and go, run around and play like he did when he was younger, because this is going to be our last time, or our last go around. And so, yeah, it's kind of like,
that's kind of melancholy.
It's sad, but at the same time, it's also, he he's kind of learning an appreciation for. Plus, he's got his grandkids to play with.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's also a bit of memento mori, you know.
Yeah.
Remember that you must die, you
Yeah.
know. And it's kind of a thing that that says, you know, be present in the moment, you know, be present where you're at, enjoy life while you have it, because it doesn't last forever.
Yeah.
You know, it's a very human thing.
Yeah.
And you know, I feel like we need stories to remind us of that, because I don't know, it feels like the time we live in now, it feels like a forever now, you know, just
Yeah.
this kind of pastiche of just, you know, now, you know, everything is now. There's no past, there's no future, it's just now. And instead of being present in the now like we should be, it's, you know, we're always looking, you know, looking towards the past with you know, with nostalgia, or looking towards the future with anticipation, and ignoring the now. But the now just forever persists. And this is kind of like brings an anchor to now.
Yeah.
Because all we have is now to create things, you know.
Or I'm trying to think of another way to put that I once heard that was very poignant. It was like, the past grows ever wider while the future recedes.
Yes. Yeah, that is, and such is life. You know, that's how life rolls. And being appreciative of, well, like in your story here, the summer, telling them to be cognizant of it, you know, and to appreciate the summer while you have it. You know, I mean, there was, you know, I've seen posts online about, like, you know, there was, you know, you didn't realize it, but there was a last time that you hung out with all your friends, you know, riding bikes, you know, out doing this and that, sleepovers with video games and pizza and stuff like that. The last time that you went and, you know, rented a movie from Blockbuster and some video games and spent, you know, stayed up all night playing that game or what have you, or, you know, there's always a last time. And so, you know, be thankful and appreciative when you have it.
I don't know if it's because I'm such a weirdo, or so when I was a teenager, I was very briefly homeless for a while.
Okay.
And like sleeping in a laundromat. And so I'm always thinking in that mode, because I will kind of look at what I have now. I'm not rich or anything. I'm not even successful. But if I were to show what I have now to the homeless version of me, it would seem like the most, like, I hit the lottery. You know what I mean? It would be it would be unfathomable to me then that I have, you know, a warm bed, a woman who loves me, some people on the internet who like to hear my stories. Like, that seems impossible to that version of me. So I'm just kind of always thinking in that mode.
Yeah. Dr. Mass says, reminds me of Ray Bradbury. Yeah. Bradbury definitely had stories that touched on this very same thing. They say that time seems to move faster as you get older because you have less time ahead of you than behind you. So that's a cheerful thought. Hey, man, you know, you get a lifetime. You get what everyone gets. You get a lifetime.
Yeah.
You know, it all depends on how you fill it and what you do with it.
Plus, there's a stripper in New Orleans with her chicken tenders.
Exactly. You know, and there's always that for you. So, you know, so you can get all three in a bundle for only $30. Damn, that is a hell of a deal, man. Now, how many pages are each one of the books?
All three are at or around 50. So it'll probably be in like 150-ish.
That's a hell of a deal. $30 for 150 pages of story, and it's and each one is an anthology, correct?
No, the first two are full volumes, like full stories.
Okay.
Only the third one is an anthology.
Okay. Now, that going back to the anthology thing, that reminds me of a question I was going to ask earlier. Was this always planned as a comic book, or was this did you have an idea of this as a novel, or has this always been a comic book in your mind?
It's always been a comic book.
Nice.
I was in college. I took a class on comic studies, and the skeleton of all this was my final project.
Oh, that's fucking awesome, dude. Heck yeah. I love hearing that. So this has been kicking around in your mind for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, no, because I mean, I look like Gandalf, but I was actually in college like 6 years ago.
Really?
Yeah. I was one of those old ass dudes on campus that looks like he wandered away from the tour group.
Hey man, you're never too old to get more education, right?
Mm-hmm.
Learn something new every day. If you're not learning, you're dying, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right, so if you just want issue 3, only $15. And then I love seeing the retailer bundles. I know that it doesn't seem like many retailers take advantage of that, but I'm always happy to see the retailer bundles because there is at least the opportunity for retailers to pull their head out of their rectum and start getting actual indie comics that aren't just bandied about by Diamond or whoever.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to see that, man. That's great. And only $50 for five copies of issue 3.
6.
6? Wow, that's an even better deal. And then a retailer mega bundle, $90, and then 6 copies of each book for, or is it 4?
4.
4 copies of each book. But I mean 1, 2, and 3, so that shops could sell it. Ooh, and then there's that beautiful piece of artwork by Skunk. He's so damn good. Love his work.
I don't. I feel bad.
Cool dude too.
I had him do this, and I don't have it. It's not going to be in the book. I'm saving it for maybe like a future trade.
Right.
So whoever gets
cover.
it, yeah.
I mean that would make an absolutely excellent wraparound cover. Yeah, just beautiful work by Skunk. And you got some Rich Ayala art. Love that dude. Roach Balls was such a funny fucking book. Holy shit.
Yeah, I would say it's in my top 5 indie books of the last 5 or so years.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, don't see him around much anymore, but damn, he's a good dude too.
He's grinding, man.
Yeah, well, hey man, and that's what it takes. Sometimes these dudes that don't really show up on streams and stuff anymore, they're just quietly working away, and that's what it takes. Making stuff. The making of things is more important than the flashy, showy, YouTubey part of it. Yes, it's important to have a platform, but I feel more important to actually make the thing, because if you don't make the thing, then you don't have the thing to pitch to the audience. So what are you doing the YouTube for?
Well,
are you a YouTuber or are you a comic creator? That's what it boils down to.
I also appreciate Rich because I don't have much experience shipping art around. And so he's going to just mail it all to me. And then I'm going to have to lean on him because I need to get his pages out to people and I don't want them to get ruined or anything. So he's agreed to kind of talk me through it because I don't have experience with that. Yeah. And I would hate to
That's awesome.
F it up.
Yeah. Definitely want to make sure the original artwork gets there safe and sound. Already sold out of the cover, the 2 Eudaimonia cover 2. Did I pronounce it correctly this time, or did I still fuck it up?
I don't think there's a right way to pronounce it. You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, number 2, the cover to number 2 is already sold out. There's an original art bundle that you guys can get if you are looking to grab some of the original artwork from this book. And Rich's art is available as well. 2 out of 3 claimed. That means there's only 1 left. So if you're looking to grab that, you best jump on it. And obviously, this right here, the Skunk's piece of beautiful artwork is available. And I appreciate the brevity of the campaign. Not a whole lot of tears. Don't have the choice paralysis that some campaigns will give you. So very straightforward and very to the point.
Yeah, no 12 cover variants and.
Well,
that wasn't me knocking anybody. That was just like if you hear me talk like that, it's because it just isn't it's not for me. You know what I mean? Right. I am way too disorganized to run something like that.
So this is almost more for your benefit and your peace of mind and sanity rather than, just anything else.
Yeah, like I wouldn't even know what to do with the publisher. Like they would, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The publisher would probably turn me away if I tried to organize that.
Right. Well, I mean, it can get unwieldy. It can get and again the choice paralysis, because when people are looking at something, when they're looking to buy something, they want to pick up the best possible thing. You know, they want to get the best deal. They want to get the most bang for their buck.
Yeah.
And so having a plethora of choices can sometimes lead to that choice paralysis, because they don't know what to get, and if they don't know what to get, then they may not get anything at all. So this is straightforward. It's to the point. It gives them easy options, and especially if they missed the first 2 books, they can go ahead and grab all 3 of them here for $30. That's fantastic. And so we got some stretch goals already unlocked. Can't see what was under there. So
sorry. Yeah. It was called it's the People Versus. It's the first short story I ever had published, and it is about 3 brothers at the sentencing hearing for their father's murderer. And they have a discussion about the morality of the death penalty. And the twist is one of the things I just said was a lie.
Well, if you guys want to find out what that twist is, then you got to go ahead and back the book, because that's one of the stretch goals that's been unlocked. And the second one is another story, I'm guessing?
Yeah, it's just a short story called Balmer. My family's from the Baltimore area, and Baltimore, if you've never been there, or if you've seen The Wire, it's close enough. But Baltimore is such a fascinating place, because you could be standing in like the most ghetto of ghettos, right?
I have driven through that part of Baltimore.
Like police sirens and boarded up row houses, and you come into a hill, and you're standing in like what is just like a place of like sadness and like poverty, and like it's awful. But when you look over the hill and you look at the inner harbor, it's nothing but prosperity, and there's neon bank signs. And so it's just such a surreal place to stay. And it's just kind of a short story about like what it would be like to grow up there and be reminded of like it's right over the horizon, but that's not for you. You know what I mean? Like,
right. An interesting dichotomy, Baltimore. Yeah. Yeah. I was driving up to New Hampshire and got off of the highway because I didn't want to pay for the tolls, and kind of got a little turned around in Baltimore and ended up in the very downtown part of it, and almost hit a crackhead that had just scored from the dude on the corner. He was backpedaling out into the street, and I stopped so I didn't hit him. So I got the tiny little fist of approval, and then he scurried off that way. And I vowed never to do that again. So yeah, it was a very interesting time. And then so you got some more. I'm guessing the next stretch goals are also stories to be unlocked.
Yep. We'll see if we get so basically when the campaign ends, whatever is unlocked is what's going to be in the book. If it doesn't get unlocked, won't be there.
Right.
So
yeah, I mean, you can always use it for another book.
Yeah. But I mean, some of these I haven't even written yet.
Okay. You just got a title and an idea. Excellent. Yeah. Well, there you go. Now, will these be comic stories, or will these be prose?
They're all comic stories, but I mean,
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome.
I ain't no prose writer.
Well, sometimes you get a little prose with like maybe some chapter artwork or something like that. It's a quicker way to get things done. But we do love our comics around here. That is for sure. Yep. The campaign's great, man. The book looks good. You've got like I said, a killer's row of artists working on it. So when are you looking to fulfill once this is done?
I think the nightmare date would be October. So
okay,
that would be the holy crap, what's going on? Hopefully before October, but hopefully no later than.
Okay. And there's a saucy image. And then there's some Rich Ayala work. I recognize that. Heck yeah! Yep. It turns out.
Quick story about a guy stuck in traffic at the end of the world.
Oh, that's going to be a hell of a lot of fun.
Mm.
That's gonna be a great one. Holy shit. So what after you get this done, what is next for you? More Noirlem, more like this, something brand new.
I think Noirlem is always going to be on the burner,
Mhm.
simmering. But
Right.
I'm gonna start working on another series I had cooked up called the Rough and Tumble, which is
Nice.
going to be this is the best elevator pitch ever. It's just gonna like blow your socks off. But it's aging gunslingers
Uh-huh.
going to war with the early Chicago mafia.
Fuck
So
yeah.
it's basically going to be Unforgiven and the Peaky Blinders.
Nice.
Mm.
Yeah, that's a great elevator pitch.
Yeah.
I'm down for that. That sounds like a fucking hell of a time. So that's what you'll probably be working on next after this.
Yeah, I wrote the script for the first issue, but it is in dire need of editing and cleaning up. And now that I'm working with Emmy again, I think I'm going to tap him in.
Nice.
Make a nice double page of the Old West blending into the cityscape.
Right. Dr. Mass says old comics had prose stories. I think it was a way to get around some rule. Can't remember now. Yeah, the Comics Code Authority had a lot of weird, janky ass rules. Basically, most of them were designed to eliminate EC Comics because EC Comics was, ruling the roost, as it were. But if you do things in magazine format, it kind of got around all of that. So yeah. That's why the old Marvel magazines and EC Comics moved to the magazine format because Comics Code Authority couldn't say shit about that. How long is Eudaimonia gonna go on? How many stories do you think you have in this particular universe? Or
This is the end.
This is the end. Okay, so this is it.
Three and out. Yeah. I'm just a big fan of like not dragging things out.
Sure.
I just felt like this was a kind of a fitting way. There's a kind of like, the rule of three. The first one introduces the idea. The second one closes it out. The third one is kind of like the epilogue that shows, where the idea can go, and no need to delve any further.
Right. Got a bit of a coda at the end. Yeah. I can totally see that. And if you guys missed the first two, you can grab this perk right here, and only $30. So highly recommend you guys jump in on this. And I do believe stories should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. I think the best stories do have a beginning, middle, and an end. Sometimes when things go on in perpetuity, they lose their luster, they lose their impact. So yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of that, especially with like remakes and reboots and all of this stuff. It's kind of like constantly going back to the same well as opposed to finding a new water source to create.
I mean, heck, look at Vatican City.
Yeah, exactly. As a matter of fact, I have Vatican City right here. I actually grabbed these from Narwhal at the convention that shall not be named. For fear of making you jealous. But yeah, my local shop didn't get these in, so I was able to grab them directly from Per while I was at Heroes.
Dude, I'm in such a desert down here. My LCS, I went over there on like a Saturday at 2 p.m. They were closed. Like I got nothing down here.
Oh man, that breaks my heart because I grew up going to comic shops. Wow. Camera is just not having a good time right now. I grew up going to comic shops, with my dad, going to card shops. We would go buy boxes of cards and we'd open up the packs and get all the cards and like look for the chase cards and stuff like that. And I worked in my LCS, for 7 years. I worked in my LCS from it was 2015 up until 2022 when she sold the business to somebody else. And the dude that's running the LCS now, he's doing a good job. He's got a lot more manga in there because I mean that's what the kids are buying. But unfortunately, he does seem to be kind of locked into the set parameters of what is and isn't an indie comic. And sometimes it's a little difficult to get him to try something new. I've
Right.
tried to get him to check out some of the stuff that is over here in the crowdfunding scene. Told him about King Cryptid just because he loves monsters and horror and cryptids and stuff like that. And I was like, dude, you need to check out Alterna. You need to check out King Cryptid specifically because it is literally right up your alley. I don't know if he's done it yet. Hopefully the next time I go in and talk to him, and I figured, vampires, Dark Horse. I mean, I figured that would be something he'd be into. But, I'll just keep gently nudging in that direction.
Yeah.
Hopefully he'll listen. But he's a good dude, former customer of the shop. And, he got out from working at a boring desk job to run a comic shop. So I'm happy for him. I could have taken over the comic shop and I considered it for a little bit. But at the same time, I want to make comics. I want to go to conventions. I want to do this thing. I don't want to just sell them. And plus, I love doing this. I love talking to people, interviewing. I get to meet so many fucking cool creators doing these interviews, and I really enjoy it. So I mean, I feel like I made the right choice.
Yeah. So what I do is, so for example, Arvid sent me a couple extra copies of his book.
Yeah.
I just take it to the bookstore and they have it's like a bookstore coffee shop.
Yeah.
And they have a kind of free read area. I just sneak them in.
Nice.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got all his info in there. Maybe, maybe some of the fantasy readers it'll be right up their alley.
See, and touching on that, I think with Pete doing in-house newsprint comics, that's more of a viable option. I think it would be really cool for creators to do newsprint versions of their books. Maybe not even like a full story. Break them down, especially like larger, graphic novels. Break them down into 10 to 12 page little chunks if they can do that. And then, get it out there and have a link to, the website to get more. I think this could be a really cool idea to get books out there more. Maybe, then this would be an amazing thing. But see spinner racks pop back up in, gas stations, convenience stores, fucking head shops for fuck's sake, like that kind of thing. And I was actually talking to Inkspots about old comics, and some of the best stories to come out of comics were made on newsprint. They were when comics were on newsprint. So it's an idea, and I'm hoping that we're going to see maybe a renaissance of newsprint comics. Cheaper to print and produce, and they can be sent out and they can be given away more freely because printing costs can be expensive. But I mean, if the printing costs are lower, it's a way to get it out there more.
Yeah, and another good thing is if you're somebody like me and you're looking to do this, you're here for a long time, not a good time.
Yes.
Up your print run. You know what I mean? Because that's why I'm able to offer this price point is because I basically set myself up. Now, not everybody's going to have that much that to invest in, but if I know I'm going to be going to local cons and local art walks and literary shows. Yeah. If I can eat the cost early and have enough to basically set myself up for years, it's going to be worth it in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Planning ahead. And, like you said, not everybody's able to do that, but if you can, it's investing in you, it's investing in your company and investing in your product, and investing in getting the word out there and getting the books out there to people. Dr. Mass says, my LCS lets customers do consignments at his shop, so I dropped a bunch of Alterna. Unfortunately, there is no one there to advocate for them. Some did sell, though. Yeah, that's another thing I did when I was working at the comic shop. I would sell, my buddy Jason, who I do topic lists with, his Absolute 1 and 2. I had him send me a bunch of those, and I was selling them in the shop and sending him the money. Same with Chubb for Merry Boys. Monica would send me, the books, and I'd sell them in packs at the shop, and then I would, just wire them the money, and the thing about it is you have to have somebody in the shop that knows the story and is willing to pitch it to people. That's the thing about shops, is that, you know, I feel like a lot of the people that run them, there's so much stuff to go through, and they're focusing more on like the mainstream stuff, that they're not really paying attention to the indie stuff. And in order to get somebody hooked on the indie stuff, you have to have somebody that actually knows that story, and then knows their customers and understands what they would be into, and be able to pitch those stories. So yeah, so I feel you, Dr. Mask. Seriously, I feel you. You know, hopefully, again, hopefully we'll see more of a renaissance, especially if indie books can be printed cheaper doing newsprint. You know, so I feel like again, I feel like there's a renaissance of indie creativity coming, not just in comics, but video games and animation and even movies. I feel like people are craving authenticity.
Yeah, I mean, especially when, gosh, sometimes I'll throw on like just an hour long video of trailers for movies and video games, and like it feels like 80% of it is the same crap. You know what I mean? Like there's like a million horror movies, there's like a million, you know, Souls-like games, and when something comes along that is just not that, it sticks out. You know what I mean? It makes me more interested in it. You know, instead of like a low budget horror movie. Not that I'm knocking anything. I'm not knocking anything.
Right. Well, I mean, when everything's the same, it all becomes like a pastiche of, you know, white noise, essentially.
Yeah.
But when something is different, when it marches to the beat of a different drum, you notice, because it's not following the same pastiche that is out there. It stands out from the bland, you know, homogenized landscape, and that's what we need. You know, we need more stuff that stands out. You know, fuck this homogenized shit. You know, be bold, be different. You know, tell a good story. You know. Well, we've been going for about an hour and a half now. Is there anything else you'd like to say about either Eudaimonia? Ha! I did it. And and Noirlem. Anything you'd like to say about either one of these books, or what's next for you?
I would say, if you want to, if you're interested in continuing the discussion of comics and storytelling, come check out The Gutter. It's a weekly show on Friday nights.
Yes.
We'd love to call you a Gutterite. And if you want to watch a dumb show about dumb crap, we also do the show every Wednesday. So make sure you look for that.
Now, is that on your channel, or is that on Aldis's channel?
It is on neither. The Gutter is on the Gutter channel, and the show is on Jeremy's channel.
Gotcha. Okay.
Jeremy Ice and Fire.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, there's Bemis has dropped the link for Riding Radios, which is our friend Josh here. Go check out his YouTube channel. And I just want to thank everybody for hanging out with us, and go check out this book. The link is in the description of this video, especially if you like either noir mysteries or surreal stories. But dude, this has been a pleasure. Always a great time talking with you, man. Thank you for coming to hang out. And all of you out there, remember,
Shop smart, shop S-Mart.